Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl. I use they, them pronouns, and I won't get mean to you if it's new for you. So today I am going to teach through storytelling. If you find that you relate to parts of this story, I invite you to get curious, follow those threads and write them down, and we can revisit them later together. If we have time here, great. If it's in the DMs, great. Bring it over to the group. Let's continue the conversations, because what I have found in the last 3 years is that as I share my story more and more, I'm cracking a lot of eggs. And what that means as an autistic, late discovered person who's high masking and high achieving is that there are a lot of people who missed getting support and diagnostics and even being spotted. They've been misdiagnosed. They can't figure out why life doesn't work for them, why all the stuff that everyone finds hard is easy for them, and all the stuff that everyone finds easy is really, really hard for them. And if you relate to my story, I would like to invite you to just get really, really curious, and maybe there's nothing wrong with you and you're just different, okay? So I remember having to self-advocate for myself to get glasses at around the age of 12. I know, that's shocking. Prior to that, my mother just told the doctor, Cheryl is just jealous because their brother is having glasses, because I had a brother who's 18 months older than me, and I was his little shadow, and I followed him around everywhere. It turns out, years later, I'm non-binary, but I thought I was a boy, and I thought I was a girl, and I thought I was like whatever I wanted to be, and so I just was that thing. But I can promise you, I was not jealous of my brother at 12 years old, because in the 90s, you still got beat up at lunchtime for wearing glasses. It was not cool, trendy, or stylish yet. We didn't have all these different kinds of frames that made us the envy of our friends. We got called names and were made fun of, and it was not great. So I passed every single vision test I ever had because I memorized charts. Back in the day, those charts were paper charts. They were standardized. They were in every eye doctor room. And when you're taking a test, it's important that you get the answers right. Those are the rules. If you get the answers right, you pass the test. So heck, if I was going to get the answers wrong, I could read the bottom because I memorized it. I had a memory that if I read something, I would remember. But I remember being in school and having a really hard time. When the teachers would call on me, I wouldn't know the answer because my auditory processing, now I know this, has difficulty filtering all of the information out around me and just paying attention to the facts that the teacher's teaching. So then the teacher invited me to sit closer to the front, and suddenly I could see the board, and I was the smartest kid in the class. I could write notes that weren't missing any words. All of my dates for social studies, aka history, were no longer guesstimates. The teacher took me to the school nurse, the one that I went to. I remember having one that showed me a chart I'd never seen before, and they did a distance test. So this chart, instead of having letters on it, it had like shapes, right? Because it's elementary school. So there was like butterflies and oranges and whatever, and I could tell what color something was, but not what it was. And so I had no depth perception. I was constantly bumping into things. I was missing the surfaces. I was walking into walls if I didn't watch my feet with every step. And yet, the professional gaslighter in my life, known as Mom, womp womp, thought I was just jealous of my older brother. Turns out, I actually have a quarter turn dysfunction with my optic nerve in my right eye that can only be corrected with glasses. And I remember, after advocating and advocating and advocating for myself to get glasses, I stepped outside and I was like, wait, pine trees have needles? Like I had no idea. Every single thing I had seen in my entire life up until I was 12 years old was blurry, out of focus, and looked like a 2D art project. So later in my life, this observing things and doing my best and just going forward and advocating for myself kept happening. It kept happening. So I became hyperverbal as a way to over-explain and make sure that I was communicating well and that I understood everything. However, I failed to notice then and now, when it is very obvious on people's faces that I've spoken about something for too long or said something that's socially inappropriate in the context. And most people think that I'm being funny or intentionally obnoxious for a laugh, and I don't even know why they're laughing. So for a long time, I thought that they were making fun of me because I don't see myself as funny. And the way neurotypical folks perceive me, I don't actually understand why everyone is laughing most of the time, because I'm literally just being myself and saying what I've observed. So the words I say are how I think. So I started to internalize that no one would take me seriously. And so I stopped taking myself seriously. I stopped saying what was on my mind because everyone would laugh, and I thought that they weren't believing me. So when I asked why they were laughing at, because I genuinely wanted to know, they would say things like, "You're so funny, you should try stand-up." And now today people are like, "Liv must laugh all day." Well, with you at home. And I'm like, what? Like, I just don't understand. I still don't understand. My mother referred to me as a social butterfly simply because I do not know how to shut up. Not because I was actually good at building relationships and having friends. I remember one time being put in a corner and having to restart my 30-second punishment every single time I moved or spoke. And it took me 25 minutes to serve my first 30-second timeout. You're welcome. So now this quirk presents itself in interpersonal situations where I don't even realize that I'm speaking out loud until someone's like, "Can you stop interrupting me?" And I'm like, wait, that was on the outside of my head? I'm so sorry. Each time it happens, it hurts. And I shrink a little more. And each time it happens, I'm faced with a choice to make it personal, make it about me, or our relationship, or I can choose to love and accept that I won't always know when to stop talking. And that the people who love me and accept me will understand that sometimes they need to tell me to be quiet so that I can honor their needs too. So while coming out as queer and even non-binary seems like a big idea, it was way easier than admitting to myself or to someone outside of myself that I identified more with autistic experiences. As media evolved, like, even though it's very limited, but as media evolved on TV and movies and books, I understood the inflexibility, even though you wish you could be more flexible. I understood the sensory overwhelm and the 2 to 5 week recovery time from any kind of big adventure or change. I understood the unexplained pain, the illness, and the very real symptoms that nobody would connect together as autism, because they would try to treat each thing separately. I was articulate, so I couldn't be autistic. I had friends, so I couldn't be autistic. I have a relationship and a loving partner, so I couldn't be autistic. But these rules are not based in science or data. They're based in social stigma. So in reality, I was caught up in a strange game of make-believe where only I knew I was pretending. No one in my family or support networks had any idea how much I was struggling. And when I did let my guard down a little bit, they just thought it was burnout or anxiety or PTSD or a trauma response or any number of things going on. Cheryl's just really sensitive and stressed in stressful situations, but they're absolutely who you want to have in a crisis. So while there is not much research focused on people like me who can mask their autism so completely from those around them, and sometimes even themselves, so instead of waiting for that research, I started to find peers in the community, and we started creating this network where it's like you're self-diagnosed and peer-reviewed. If 10 autistic people agree with the fact that you're autistic, it doesn't matter if you have $6,000 for an assessment, okay? So if you take a minute and think about all of the people in your life who are creative, who are a little bit out there, whose sweaters make them angry sometimes if the lights are too loud, who like freak out when someone touches them without consenting in like a disproportionate way. Think of how many people in your day-to-day life who you think are maybe just a little odd. They're maybe just a little sensitive to sound. They maybe phrase things in certain ways. They're maybe always the person who has the most adept hot take and then doesn't know when to stop talking. If you have more of those people in your life than not, chances are you're somewhere on the neurodivergent spectrum, which is an umbrella term that houses everything from ADHD and autism to various personality disorders. And I would love to talk to you about that another time. But one of the big things I would love to talk to you about is pocket coaching and why I started it. Because you can imagine you're unable to read social cues. You have a hard time being perceived on video and camera. You mask, which means you do whatever seems appropriate in the context that you're in so that nobody thinks you're inappropriate. Yeah. That coaching in spaces like this, with lots of videos, lots of perspectives, might not be effective for you, right? So how do I do that? I created an on-demand service where people can be as involved or as slow-paced as they need. Everyone gets the same price. Everyone gets the same access, and it's all done through your cell phone. You do not have to have a video call unless you want to. What? Hands up if you felt like you had to save every single thing that ever happened to you or mattered to you in a month to hop on a call with your coach and maximize the time. Okay. And then you get there and the thing that you saved, it doesn't even apply anymore. And so now you feel like this call is a complete waste of time, and you panic and you just say things that don't really matter, and you wasted like a $700 call, and you're like, oh my God, I can't even do coaching right. I quit at life. Hands up if you bought a course and never finished it. One of the reasons that might happen is that courses are often built for neurotypical brains that follow a linear structure to process in their minds. So going da 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 on a course, you get to video number 3, it's not applicable to you. You think the entire thing is a waste of money, and you throw it all out and have a shame spiral. Coaching programs felt too rigid. There was no room for your natural rhythm. There was no room to be like, I don't know what that word you just said means, because they would just repeat it slower and you weren't any more enlightened than you used to be. Most coaching programs assume that one-size-fits-all strategies will work for everyone, including the way they structure and deliver the material. You need more support between calls, not just during them, and you feel guilty asking for that. Coaching without real-time support can feel disconnected for neurodivergent brains, partly because of novelty and dopamine, partly because of object permanence. We can talk about that on another call. And do you struggle with energy and focus, making traditional coaching feel draining? How many of you have gotten on a 1-hour coaching call, and by 20 minutes, you're like, okay, I got everything I need. Why do we still have to be here? Why are we talking? Or you spider web everywhere and it takes you 45 minutes to get to the point. That's why voice note coaching and text coaching is so supportive. You're out of spoons. You don't have any more spoons to use your voice. Great, text. Send memes. I will ask you questions. I will find the way that communication works for you, and we will 1% at a time get you closer to your goal. I would love to hear your feedback and your experience in coaching thus far.